lacked last game. It's also something they're very successful with. So I'm very glad Complexity picks up the Dragon Knight. They used to run a lot of Enigma with it. And it could be a Lina core, it could be a DK mid, Lina Dazzle safe lane, Enigma jungle, which is not a very weak safe lane. Like, you can get away with it. And Fly is an extremely good Enigma player. It's one of his favorite heroes to play.
Zed Freak as well. Like, so they have two different players that love to play Enigma. So if any team should pick it, it's Complexity. But they haven't run it a lot at all. I mean, no team does. But we'll see. They could definitely pull it out for one game.
It's super tough for Naga though. Like,
it is.
You can't BKB ulti because you can just net you, and if you don't get BKB, you can just stay out and sleep.
Their first game of the group stage, they had DK Enigma. It was DK Enigma Dazzle. It's how they started. Like, you know, it was probably one of their go-to strategies, and then they did quite well.
That was
so maybe they're saving it.
It was pretty cool.
And now they're facing a tough situation, and it might come back again. So it could be one of their go-to strats, one of the strats they're the most confident with.
EG had a lot of wave clear last game with the Lina and the Sanking, and this game it's, I'd say, severely lacking with the Tusk pickup.
Yeah, I mean, Tusk offers something, though. The Ice Shards are not terrible, and Nagasan can still send her illusions and Riptide, but if it's a support Naga, that's not impressive at all.
But this time they have a Dragon Knight, which is like much stronger. I think they like much stronger wave clear than last game.
And the Dazzle heal, like, it's gonna be.
Do you think they're gonna go Caudle maybe even into this lineup?
I think
depending
Caudle
on
would be a
what
very
they
good
pick.
pick. Yeah.
Like EG might go for Storm Caudle or CM, which is.
Caudle's usually the AoE hero though.
Yeah.
What would PvD play in that case? The CM makes a lot more sense. It's also good at it. Like, the Crystal Nova is not a bad spell at clearing waves. I think, Naga Maiden, it's always been a support duo that works really well.
Team fight wise as well, like if you're up against, it's going to be like maybe a similar situation where Complexity tries to push in too early and you have the song into the Maiden ultimate, which could, one fight is all it takes.
Yeah,
just
definitely
change the game.
I think EG are very happy to go into Dragon Knight with a Storm pick though, because like this could secure a good mid lane for Sumail. Laning against a melee hero as Storm is so easy. So yes, there's a strong push from Complexity, but they need to really be able to group up as 5 and go. So one way to solve that is to start ganking before that happens.
Yeah, like the only issue is like if the Storm gets into the situation where the enemy is grouping up, like he wouldn't be able to do much against that. So that would be the issue there. But I could see it working if he actually gets a very good start. Has a CM, he has the CM aura, so the lane will be really good for him.
I have to say, I really like both drafts so far. I think
armor, they are like
solid.
stacking all the armor.
Yeah.
Literally. Dazzle, Dragon Knight, and Sven.
Yeah, they're one of the few teams that actually pick Sven without... Like, we saw Cloud9 pick it up versus the Techies because of the Warcry versus the Mines. We've also seen Sven IO, not terribly common, but still probably one of the most common partners with Sven. But Complexity is one of the few teams that just pick straight Sven carry without any partner.
Do you think like Zeus would be good against this type of lineup? You mass spell damage because they have a lot of armor, so Zeus would be able to actually deal with them very well before they have BKB.
Razor.
I think Zeus could have worked really well. It's still an option for them. I like the Razor pick. I think it's also quite solid because they do lack damage in a way. Like, if you can control the Sven, I think they like a bit of damage.
It's a good way of dealing with the Sven. Like the Razor, I feel a lot of it is like the matchup between Sven and Razor is very favorable for if you're going to run the Sven as a carry. So Razor will have a very good matchup in that sense.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean that's very fine, but if it just goes late right now, having DK and Sven and a Dazzle to side that, I think Complexity have a very comfortable late game scenario ahead of them. And I'm surprised that EG did not go for the harder carry approach, but instead went for the...
It might be because they're like looking for a Tinker mid. I think Tinker has a lot of synergy with Naga. It's really good late game, and it's good at stalling the pushes. I think it's a little bit better than Zeus, although I do like the Zeus pick versus the mass armor. It just doesn't scale as well late, and I think that EG always drafts like, sufficient late game.
Just look at their lineup right now. They need someone that the Sumail hero they are looking for has to have very heavy carry potential, and Tinker definitely fits that category.
Yeah, sounds like a great pick.
Yeah, I don't think Storm is the hero with their current matchup anymore. Like, it's gonna be hard to kill so many tanky heroes and the Grave.
You can't kill anyone, I think, as a Storm. So if you can't kill, you want a hero that can drag out fights like Tinker.
When you're facing Lina with Jules, DK, it's gonna be a tough Storm game. It's very not easy to play. BKB is really needed.
So, do they have any other options apart from Tinker, Zeus?
Yeah, Zeus and Tinker are like the go-to, but thinking. They banned out the Bloodseeker, so worried about that. That could have been a strong hero, actually. The AoE is making it hard for Dazzle to get a good grave off with the silence coming out.
But Sumail doesn't play any of these if they were to pick Bloodseeker.
That's true. Well, maybe they expect him to play Razor in that case, just putting a Razor mid. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like a Sumail hero, though.
So how about complexity? So they're definitely looking for their offlane hero. Sven, Lina most likely the support here with Dazzle, and the last one will be their offlaner.
I really feel like they need AoE control. I don't know. I thought Centaur would be a great pick, but it was bad.
Yeah, Centaur will be great for their lineup.
Magnus could work. Axe
Magnus sounds really good with Sven.
Something like this. Magnus, an Axe. They really need control. That's what they like to me.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna be good, but I could...
Not sure what's the reasoning though.
Yeah, I don't really quite understand the Timbersaw pick, I have to say, but especially because he's gonna have to face a very, very tough lane. Like Naga made in Razor, you're gonna die every time you
Yeah, and the issue with Timbersaw is if you don't get anything out of the lane, you can't jungle, and there's no way of coming back.
Yeah,
so it's
he's
very
one of those
difficult.
heroes. He needs to be on the lane and get XP.
They should dual lane like 100% in this game. Just looking at Dazzle and Timbersaw are most likely going to go together in just a Lina Sven lane. And then
how about the aggro try? Sven, Lina, Dazzle, and let Timbersaw get a 1v1 matchup. That would actually work towards
that would be nice for him as well.
But it's a tough lane to challenge though, because Maiden, Naga, Razor is not...
Yeah.
You know, they can just spam you out.
I mean, they have a lot of stun and nuke, so it could probably work in their favor if they get their spells right. I mean, they can chain lock and kill someone.
It would be exciting. We haven't seen a try versus try in the game at all, actually.
I think when you pick Timbersaw, a lot of his strength is if you get a suitable 1v1 matchup and he's against Tusk.
Yeah, that's a good
strength hero.
That would be a dream.
Yeah. Ember Spirit. That is interesting.
Brought out a good fighting hero early on and works a lot better into the late game than, for say the Storm Spirit would. And he's pretty strong early on as well when he has max level in Flame Lord, so this could work.
Interesting. Interesting lineups indeed. We are ready for game number 2. EG stand on the cusp of the semi-finals of the upper bracket and a top 6 finish at TI5. Let's find out whether they can confirm it or Complexity can come back and square the match. Let's go back to the commentators.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's time to get underway to see if Complexity can force this to a third game or if EG would find themselves sitting very comfortably in their semi-final position. Cinderin, we have an abnormal draft.
Yes, I am so excited about this game. I looked at Complexity's lineup, and the first thing that just came to mind for me was just armor. That was the first thing I thought. Like, their entire lineup, apart from Lina, she's the odd one out. You might be seeing 3 heroes on the Radiant side running around with like 40 to 50 armor in fights. They have the Warcry from Sven. Let me try that again. The Warcry from Sven. Apparently that was a tongue twister today. For 20 armor. Timbersaw's passive, of course, also maxing out at 20 armor. Then they have Weave. And they have a Dragon Knight, who innately has a lot of armor when he gets Dragon Blood up. And this makes me worry a little bit for EG, because when you look over their side, the vast majority of their damage is actually physical. In the super early game, of course, Flame Guard from Ember can be powerful. But come mid-late game, EG will have to rely on Razor with his ultimate and just right-clicks, as well as Ember Spirit's Sleight of Fist to get the job done. I'm simply worried that we could reach a point here where Complexity will be able to push the base at 25 minutes with all of their armor just stacked up, and EG can't repel them. I love Complexity's draft for this matchup. I think it's way more one-sided of a draft for me compared to game 1, and EG, in my opinion, have to play a really good game here to win.
It feels like the polar opposite of like a Huskar as far as the way the hero is built, and it's Complexity who can just stand alive with a huge amount of armor. Of course, so Timbersaw hasn't been the most popular of heroes of late, also because of the age of the burst damage. Another good reason why they had that Lina picked up by Complexity nice and early on. There's nothing like that. Like, there's no Finger of Death, there's no Laguna Blade just to bring him down before these armor charges start to stack for the Timbersaw. He said it maxes at 20, but it still could be brought down before that. Everything from EG is pretty continuous until we hit the Ember Spirit having like huge amounts of damage. But that's only if you get there.
Yeah, we might see in this particular game Sumail considering a Deso build over a Battle Fury, or maybe he's going to get both. But I think this time around, EG simply need to address that problem at some point in the game. If their early game doesn't go incredibly, so they just get really far ahead and don't really have that problem, they will need to itemize. They will need a Curus, they will need a Deso. It's really good to get it on the Ember because he hits all the targets automatically with his Sleight of Fist, so they can apply the Deso to all the heroes. Alternatively, could consider it, of course, on Universe's Tusk. It's not that uncommon of an item on that hero.
Howie, real trouble on bottom lane. The Light Strike Array from Flying was able to connect. They need more damage to kill him, however. There's a Stout Shield, but then again with a second Light Strike Array! Complexity open up the account. They claim first blood, and this is not the way EG wanted to start this. Because the Observer Wards that were down from Complexity, they saw where EG was shifting their lanes. They saw, okay, the Tuskkar's moving back up the top because he was trying to dodge the Timbersaw, and already Complexity had preemptively noticed that EG are going to switch this. They've actually brought the Timber down to the bot lane. Universe just can't catch a break.
This is a very... I feel like this happens pretty rarely, but it's a very logical play. Moon Meander got pressured in the top lane, and instead of TPing back to base or TPing to his safe or his offlane tier 1 tower, as we usually see offlaners do when they're threatened, he just immediately TP'd bottom. They knew they wanted the lane swap immediately, so he kind of gets, like, he solves two problems at once. He escapes a gank and gets himself into a better lane with one play. And now this top lane for EG, I'm not so sure about this for Complexity, actually. I think Razor Naga has a lot of potential to kill a Sven Lina lane. Sure, they've got a decent amount of spell burst, but if they don't get the full combo off and put fear really low very quickly, the Naga and Razor can just run them down with Static Link and, of course, the Ensnare.
That's why it's interesting to watch how they're just prepping themselves on the lane. So Fly starts with the Light Strike Array, then you go into something like the Stormbolt, so you're able to get that second stun off. Instead of just having the Sven throw out the Stormbolt and go from there, Sumail might be in a little bit of trouble here in mid lane. Pushing back the Flame Guard and having a PMS does help. There's been a lot of trade-off in that mid lane. But Sumail still found a very large chunk of farm as that Ember Spirit, 14-1, up against that DK, who's got 8 for 1 currently.
Yeah, that's the good thing about this pick for EG. We've talked...
Fear. They're going to split up the lane right now. Fly knows he could be in a little bit of trouble, so Freak's going to babysit him all the way out of here. There's no ensnare for Naga. She's still only level 1. So they move the Sven back over again while I'm hearing